Welcome to the Revere Art Community on the RAC podcast, a bi-monthly series brought to you by the Revere Art Community at Las Carentas and Chocolate Cafe, where we sit and talk with artists from the Revere community about how they do what they do and sometimes why they do it, with a little bit of focus on making sure that they're able to market and make a little bit of income from this. Welcome to On the RAC. We welcome artists of all backgrounds, ages, abilities, and experience levels. Every story matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. We create a safe, respectful space for artistic expression. We honor the rich tapestry of culture that we call Revere, our home, and we recognize that art is a powerful bridge between communities. Again, welcome to On the RAC.
Welcome to the Revere Art Community on the RAC podcast, a part of the Revere Art Community's outreach to the community of Revere, highlighting and exposing history about our past, our culture, what's happening currently in the arts and culture communities. Today we have a couple of special guests. As you can see, we were all sort of like in that same groove looking. It's all white and dark clothes. But groove is what these gentlemen, I'm not going to say guys, these gentlemen did back in the day. Chuck and Rob, very special things going on in the city of Revere. What I'd like you to do is, we'll go from here to here, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, just a little bit, we'll get into it more, your background, and then we'll talk about what's happening at the Revere Historic Society that is rock and roll, baby.
Sure. I'm Bob Nesom, and actually established Hometown Rocks with my friend Chuck, and we grew up in Beachmont together way back in the 60s, early 70s, and that's where my parents landed when I was about 4 years old, and from there in the 70s, they moved to Revere Beach Parkway by the Everett line down there up off Broadway. So it is there when a little after when my family moved there, Chuck and I were in got a band together with some others and used to play down in my basement and all, and it really took off. And we played a lot of music with Haven. And
With who?
Haven.
Who's Haven?
Okay, Haven originally there were a few different members over time, but it was Chucky. There was Chucky, myself. There was Lee Leffler. There was a fellow named Joe Gould from Winthrop, and then eventually it was Jimmy Bunce from Revere. We were all eventually
Jimmy
from
Bunce.
Revere.
God, that's the name I don't remember. And what street was that on?
That was Revere Beach Parkway when we started up.
You played at the club, the Cellar at Revere Beach Parkway.
At the Cellar, right? Did a lot. It turned into sort of like a club where the door was the door leading down to the finished basement. We'd leave unlocked. So while we were rehearsing, we were practicing, we didn't know who would end up there. Sometimes we'd have like an audience listening to us play.
Anyone ever walk in with an instrument?
I think maybe I think maybe a couple of times, but I just don't remember who
private
they were.
club. And Chuck, a little bit about you.
Yeah, Chuck Vitale. Bob and I, like Bob says, we go way back. 15 years old, down Bob's cellar in a band called Haven. So Haven was our first serious band. Prior to that, I played with Craig Burdick, Beachmont guy, and Dana West, guitar virtuoso.
What band was that called?
That was called the Crystal Sun.
Oh.
And Craig Burdick, they live right along the beach, along the wall in Beachmont. And Maddie, Craig's mother, had us play at the Chelsea Soldiers Home. So it was like our first performance.
What was that like?
So there was, people in wheelchairs moving, going down.
What was the idea of you're actually, and you probably had a thought of it while you were doing it. We're performing in front of someone that isn't in my basement or garage.
Yeah. And it was funny because I could sing. So Craig knew I could sing. Dana knew I could sing. And they stuck a bass in my hands.
Ooh.
And so I go on stage with these other guys who could play, and I'm lowering the volume down on the bass, just kind of faking it, But I was fortunate to be able to sing harmonies with these guys like the Beatles did. You know, I'll mention the Beatles a few times because, of course, they were such a big influence on all of us.
Yeah.
But so that was the early. I was 14 years old during that, and then Bob and I got together with Lee Leffler, who's from Native Tongue. We feature that band up at Hometown Rocks at the
And
museum.
we will get into Hometown Rocks.
Yep.
Well worth visiting, believe me. All right, you're going back a little bit. What I want to ask you is, we all discovered the radio probably the 5th or 6th grade when we had our transistors
Oh yeah,
and we'd turn them on, and I could remember walking around and everyone would have it on MEX, RKO.
RKO.
All right. What were the tunes then that inspired you to think you could possibly do something like that before you got into your basement and really
Yeah.
did it?
Good.
Okay, what's the I don't understand.
What are the tunes?
From
Who were the
AM
influences
radio.
from your AM radio days when you started discovering?
Oh, that's a good question. Gosh, you know, when I first listened to the music on transistor radio, I had by 45s, and I really weren't familiar with the bands and the musicians. When I started doing that was when albums were becoming the thing to do. And my first 2 albums were Abbey Road and Donovan's Greatest Hits.
Oh, great.
Great influence
That's
on me.
great. That's great.
And one of my first memories in listening to this stuff a little closer was one of the many times I visited Chucky, and he got a new stereo and he had headphones for the first time. He said, "Bob, you gotta listen to this. You gotta listen to this. Listen." And he put the headphones on me, and it was Abbey Road. And he said, "Don't you hear them? They're the crickets. They're the crickets in there. You can hear them now with the headphones." So it was like from the transistor radio. I mean, it really started happening with the albums and turning FM and all that. So with
Who were the bands? Who were the bands?
Well, I mean, there was, you know, the Beatles for me.
Yes,
the
for
Beatles,
you.
Donovan, but then eventually Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin. Yeah, those are really big for me, those 2 bands.
And you, Chuck?
So you go back to the transistor radio.
Right.
So that's before FM. So we remember when FM came out, where you could finally hear "Stairway to Heaven," the whole song.
Right.
But AM at 13, 14 years old, I mean, you're in your puberty years, so you're on the border of becoming an adult, but still a kid. I was a big pop music fan. What I remember on AM radio was "Dizzy" by Tommy Rowe. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have to hear that song. And depending, I put it on WMEX or WRQ, I was bound to hear that song because it was such a big hit for a few weeks, you know. And then the Flying Machine was "Smile a Little Smile" for me, Rosemary, you know. But with the stuff that we played, going back when I could barely play, was Grand Funk Railroad, Closer and Closer. And also I'm looking at Creedence Clearwater, Proud Mary. You know, that's the really early stuff. I didn't even attempt to play the Beatles stuff back then. We probably did 1 or 2 Beatles songs, but AM radio, I remember having my AM radio down the Cape because we had our own little radio.
Yeah, you could carry it in
You
your
carry
pocket.
it in your pocket.
With
And I
the
remember
antenna up and
being down Cape Cod. I must have been 13 years old with my family. And Kenny Rogers, "Tell It All, Brother," was Kenny Rogers in the first edition. I love that song, you know. So this is my first interest of breathing in popular music. The top 40, they called it. Every Saturday or every Sunday was WMEX Top 40. And I had that playlist memorized. You know, I knew when Tom Jones was going to come on. I knew when the Monkees were going to come on.
God, they were an influence that people at that time never realized what they'd be.
I listened to the Monkees.
They're a green believer in, every one of our generations.
That's great. That's great.
Okay, so now you get your roots. You're starting to get into Grand Funk. What was that?
Creedence Clearwater.
Hot Tuna. Remember them?
Yeah.
Allman Brothers started
Yeah,
showing
We
up.
took time listening to Alice Cooper.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Traffic. All those different bands.
I mean, and there's a lot more.
Yeah. How much did the blues and black music affect you?
You know,
Because that's, you go back and Led Zeppelin, you go back and look at the Stones, you go back and look at the Beatles. They all played that
Yeah,
stuff that was
that-
called R&B, and
Yeah.
R&B was influenced from black music.
Yeah, 1/4/5 progression is technically what the blues is, and I knew the Stones were doing it when the Beatles were doing Kansas City. That was a blues based chord progression, and Led Zeppelin. I really didn't think about the blues too much. In fact, a lot of guys will kill me for saying this, but I used to say I was so into pop music that I would say the blues music is for people that are sad, and pop, and the Monkees are for people that are happy.
That's true in many ways.
But of course, I can appreciate it. The birth of the blues with the cotton picking slaves,
Yeah,
down south doing spiritual music,
Yeah.
and then that
African
evolved.
music and roots, all of that,
It
right?
all evolved, and I respect it. And I like blues now at my age much more than I used to
Yeah,
like
me
it.
too.
It's
When I was
amazing how
younger.
with age comes wisdom. And
Wisdom,
the wisdom
yeah.
is there's a lot more music out there that because I was stuck in one genre,
Yeah,
I didn't hear or participate in.
But when it comes to black music, the one it was multiracial, but I still listen to his music. It's Sly and the Family Stone.
Oh yeah,
Big,
man.
God
huge,
bless him.
Stevie Wonder. Oh my
Sax.
God.
Of course, a genius.
Yeah.
Sly, first truly pop music that was coming out of black mixed group.
Love Sly.
Uh-huh.
He was a genius.
He was ahead of the curve.
So now we're starting to get in school. We're getting through school. We're starting to do things that are on our own as no longer pre-adults, but young adults. What did you do with the music in your bands? Where did you go? What did you see happen?
Well, when Chuck and I were in Haven, we played at school event, like a lot of other bands. School events. We played at the Wonderland Ballroom. We played at the Frolic before it burned down. We did Half Shell. The Half Shell was in
Medford. Yeah.
Wherever we could, we'd play. I think one of our first gigs was in someone's living room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was
the
in Chelsea.
birthday party.
The birthday party. Yeah.
Whose birthday?
It was our drummer's girlfriend.
Yeah.
I knew it'd be. I knew it'd be a girl.
And it was a bad storm, and I think the
We had to
and
stay
we
overnight.
stayed up overnight, so that was very exciting.
Of course, boys. All right. What was some of the biggest, in your opinions, with your band together? And I was not here. I left in '77 to go into the music industry. I worked in the dance music side of it, so I didn't see a lot that happened in the '70s and '80s here with you guys. What were the biggest bands you went to? What were some of the biggest venues you played at? And what did you feel about that experience?
You want to go first, Chuck?
Yeah. So concerts that I went to, is that
No, that you performed.
that I performed at over my years.
Yeah. What do you think was some of the best? It could be a little itty bitty place. It could be,
Yeah.
It could be at the Orpheum. I don't care. Just what was it that was like, this was it. This is where you knew in your mind, this is what I want to do,
Well,
and I'm doing it.
That's funny. Bob brought up that we played at high school dances, and we played at I think it was a Garfield 9th grade dance, and we were a couple years older.
Yep.
And the girls were standing in front of the stage, and they were throwing flowers at the band. So right there and then, why do we get into this business anyway? The real deep-rooted stuff is, to get the chicks. I don't mean to say it like that, but
Yes, he does.
but we all want approval. We all want to be liked. And we saw that guitar players were popular. We saw that lead singers were popular. And I love music. I love playing music. That was primary, but secondary, it was for the adulation. I have to say that. We all want we all want to be noticed. So you write a song and somebody says, "What a great song that is." You sing a song, or "What a great vocal part." Boy, I really love your singing. That carried me for many, many years. And just to know and to look at it this way, not so much from an ego standpoint, but to be able to please somebody, to offer something that you do to other people to make them feel good, to make them for them to enjoy life, for them to enjoy music. So it's like it's inside, and you want to get it out and you want to share it with the world. I mean, you do recordings, you know, hope you hit record, you're going to have a hit record. So that one job we did as a 14, 15-year-old kid stuck in my mind. But going many years later, I'll tell you one gig that I did that I'm very proud of. We knew some musicians from Boston, and they needed a keyboard player to play with Eddie Money in Worcester in front of 5,000 people. I forget the name. It was right near the Worcester Centrum. It was a big, giant concert hall. And we rehearsed with Eddie Money 2 nights before the show. And then we all dressed up rock and roll. My hair was real long, and I had cool clothes on. And,
We'll have pictures.
And Eddie Money, you know, did 2 Tickets to Paradise, and I played keyboards. During the rehearsal, I sang the high part for the harmony. He goes, "Yep, you'll get the high parts," and that was remarkable. And it was just a fun. It was over. You know, we did 1 set. It was over in the blink of an eye. I'm going to go back on for an encore, you know. And I was just a keyboard player in the background, but it was something. You know, I too played at CBGB's with the West Band. We went to Switzerland, and we played at an In Guitar Festival that was attended by musicians from other countries, from France, from Russia. They had a Russian a classical guitar quartet.
Wow.
It was really, really cool. And we were the rock band from the U.S. And so we represented the U.S. And there was also another band from the U.S. from Louisiana. They were a blues band. I forget the name. They were real. This guy was like a Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of a guy. And you know, playing around, played at the RAC many, many times with
RAC.
vital signs. You know, we used to say, this is where the Police played. This is where the Clash played. This is where Blondie played. And to be able to play the RAC and get paid, you know, was great.
Rather than paying to go see them.
Right.
Yeah.
Just something in my past that you asked me what were some highlights, and that's the first stuff that comes to mind.
And that's important. Now you, my friend.
Yes.
Similar question. What were the highlights? What were the things that you realized this is what it's all about? This is what I want to do.
Well, in the 70s, as the 70s was progressing, I was doing a lot of solo work. I mean, like I was saying it earlier, Donovan was a great influence on me. Also, Bob Dylan was a great influence. And I found my passion was in songwriting. So, and got into sound studios and actually recording my songs. And my first song I had on the radio was on WCOZ, called Question After Question, and it was based. Actually, it was from my listening to and being in horror of the Jonestown incident down in South
That's what
America.
affected you.
That's what affected me.
It caused you to write that song.
Great song. You gotta hear it.
Question After
We
Question.
need the clip sent to us. We'll clip this on the very end. A couple of things are going to be clipped on. Excuse me for interrupting, but little live flow. At the end of the interview, we'll be able to take an QR code to get information, Hometown Rocks, any websites, any information they have, along with a video they've done from the Hometown Rocks opening celebration, and your music, and hopefully your music.
Yeah.
And we'll put them on at the end. Go ahead.
That's
Sorry.
good, Ryan. So over the years, songwriting.
I want to delve into that, if it's okay.
Sure.
What was it that gave you the juice to realize that you could take thoughts and put them to a written form and then translate that and compose it into a song?
So I was very much a poet at a young age. Wrote a lot of poetry.
Did you ever say it out loud, or were they just poems in your book?
Just poems in my book.
Did you ever show anyone your
Political
poems?
poems and all, every once in a while.
Yeah.
But then Haven came around, and actually, gosh, here's an opportunity to write. So we were talking about writing some music together, and also I thought, gosh, there's more to life than lyrics. I'm a musician too. I can bring these together, and actually, the music brings life to my words and vice versa. And
Mhm.
I was just so fascinated by bringing them together. There are lines that go along with music. Not all lines go with the same music.
The art of being a good songwriter.
So in the 70s, 80s, very much I played played as a soloist often. I eventually started creating albums. I've come out with seven albums now, and I get a lot of play online. It's a different world now than it was back in
Oh, totally. What is your
70s.
discography? Can you find it somewhere? Is there a link to it?
It's bobnesom.com is my website where I have a lot of the music, and it's categorized by album.
Mm-hmm.
So you could listen to all of it.
It will be, once again, underneath when we get to the end, but bobnesom.com. And you, Chuck? Same sort of setup like that
Um,
for your music?
I don't have much of my music online. I have music with bands I play.
Oh, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And
All right.
Jackie has a lot of that.
I have a lot of videos.
In .com somewhere?
I don't have a .com right now.
YouTube?
YouTube, plenty of YouTube.
Where do we look on YouTube for
You
you?
could probably look Charles Vitale or Chuck Vitale for
YouTube.
YouTube.
All
Yeah, I can
right.
get you a link.
Now, you pushed on. Your rock and roll days have sort of got behind you, as they say, long in the tooth and gray in the hair. All right, and time marches on. I know we had our 50th reunion a few years ago. All right, and definitely gray hair and long in the tooth for everybody.
Long live 1973.
Some of us are prettier than others, always have been. But the truth is, that's when I started to hear rumors a few years ago about some project happening. When did you look into starting what you get going right now at the Revere Historic Society? And I know there's a lot, but what were the early things that started to get you together to think about?
Okay, Chucky's looking at me. It's my turn.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. I was. This was at least a couple of years ago.
Yeah, so yeah, that's when I.
We're talking about hometown
Yeah.
rocks, right?
So
Yeah,
it
Hometown
actually-
Rocks.
It started with a phone call. Actually, I made a phone call to Chucky, and I said, "Chucky, I've got this idea. That's we can present the history. The history of rock music when we were playing rock music and creating it back the second half of the last century, the 20th century."
Yep.
And there's a history to this. There's a reason why there were so many kids playing music. We were influenced by something, and we weren't always conscious of it, but it was all around us, and we were immersed in it, and it really spoke to us. So that led to talking about, okay, the museum. Maybe the museum will put it up. Give us some space, maybe a room, maybe an office that isn't being used. And we're going back of, gosh, would people come? Would people be interested? So do you want to take it from there?
No, wait. That was always a question.
There was always a, will they come?
Will they come?
We've heard the line, build it and they will come. But
Yes,
we're not quite sure.
and they, I'm not no suspense, and they did by appointment only for the first 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
It's well worth going up and seeing. I noticed that you delved back even a little earlier to some of the Revere rock and rollers that were playing original old school rock and roll. And they're mentioned. We've got a few of them in our history.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. So it isn't just, our class
Right.
and that sort of click type of thing. Anyone out there from the period where these gentlemen haven't hunted you down yet, found you and said, come participate in what you both talked about, especially you articulated it so well when I asked you, Chuck, about being back in that 14-year-old period at the school they're playing. You were being immersive, and you were sharing a love for something you had with other people that recognized it and loved it also.
Right.
So long before immersive experiences came on these things and these things only for most people, It was the ability to participate in a function with other people from your community where they were able to relate. And that's the most important thing about what songwriters, what performers, what art, rock and roll history curators, which you both are now, are curators
Yeah.
of the rock and roll history for Revere,
Yeah.
have in common. They understand that music is the last thing that's left for everybody when all else things are stripped away and faded, and you get to the place where you just remember what's important. Absolutely.
Well said.
Tell us about Hometown Rocks at the Revere Historic Society. That's 108 Beach Street, for those of you that don't know where it is, opposite the Immaculate Conception Church School and the Revere Youth Center, where there used to be bands that played back in the day. I remember that so well. Gents, you're on.
All right.
We got a little bit more to go.
Chuck.
Hometown Rocks, it just grew. It, like Bob mentioned, we thought we were going to have a room a little bit bigger than this, put a few posters up. And then when the museum director, Toby, showed us around, she said, I want to show you up on the 4th floor. She brought us up to the 4th floor. Of course, I had to get my breath back when I got to the top of the
That's
stairs.
the attic.
The attic.
The
right.
attic in the old rectory for Immaculate Conception.
That's right. So they had it remodeled. In fact, the whole museum was remodeled, so there was all new electricity up there. But it was still being used for sorting archival memorabilia, Revere memorabilia. So it was kind of a mess when we went up there. There was a lot of stuff up there, and so we had a hard time even picturing it. But Toby says, yeah, you could close off this area and just set up over here. But we started collecting things, making phone calls to musicians. Some musicians I knew from Facebook, guys I knew when I was in my 20s, reached out to them. Some people didn't participate right away. Some did. Some gave us a bio. They self-wrote like an autobiography for themselves, and they gave us photos, and we laid them out. And I became an Adobe Illustrator user for the first time, laying out all those bios. I spent a lot of time on Photoshop, printing, touching up photos, restoring photos, and taking magazine articles and newspaper articles and laying them out so they'll fit on a specific size presentation, a poster, and very exciting stuff. And so Bob was showing me some pictures of when we first went up there. And this was a 14-month endeavor too. We didn't go up every Saturday, but we went up 2 or 3 Saturdays.
Once we knew what space we had.
Yeah, we started going up there and slowly bringing stuff, furniture, bookcases, glass cabinets.
If I may add.
Go.
Okay, at the beginning, we have this space and we have a general idea what we want to do, but no really specifics. We know we want to do bios, but not just frame bios. I know we knew we had to do something with quite a bit of dimension to it. We were thinking how to breathe life into this thing. And so at the beginning, we came up with these ideas, but how do they fit together? Well, they wouldn't fit together. So that was one of the most stressful things in the initial months, was once we had sort of a big picture, we would have to change it because it depended, the way it went depended on what we would find, the stories we would hear, the people would get back to us, the items we would find. So it was really, really quite something. And there were times that it was really, really quite stressful. But then we reached a point, we thought, wow, there it is. There's the finish line up ahead.
We're ready to open.
Yeah, so that was very relieving. It made, we were like practically dancing and singing while we were finishing up.
And then came the opening. You had to reply to an email. You had to state your preference of time, and you had to commit that you'd be there. And for 4 weekends in a row, on Saturday and Sunday?
Just Saturdays.
Just Saturdays. I went to the initial Saturday opening myself. And it was packed. It was
You were honored.
great. It was so much fun. And that just continued to happen. I remember Kerry Leppo walking up. I didn't get to be the first hour. I had to go the second. Well, Kerry, you know. It's wonderful. But what I am going to ask is, now that you've got it up and running, you've demonstrated the proof, the concept, you've reached out and attracted individuals to come in and participate in this. What is some of the paraphernalia that you'd really like to get up in there? I envision in my mind, we're getting older. Let's just be honest. You know,
We're living proof.
I can be honest about that.
we're in the second half of our lives, and our friends, because I participated in the Revere High School's 73 class of coordinating the 50th anniversary. One of the guys does research on who's passed away, and it's 200 plus people, gals and guys, that have all passed from our class.
Wow.
And I thought it was shocking, and then I learned that that's average.
Yeah.
That's average. It's not. So people are going to pass away. What's the chances of pushing towards all our musician friends and saying, donate something to this history museum that whether it's a drum set, whether it's something somebody wore, with, you know what I mean? Where there's things that are like, rather than sitting in someone's basement of the kids or something, where it could be. Would you like to try to do something like that?
Yeah, of course. It's hard to ask somebody for a guitar.
But
You know?
preface it as this is going to be legacy.
Yeah.
You know, what other museum are you going to put your guitar in?
Yeah. Well, I have my vintage Fender Coronado 2 from 1966,
Cool.
and I did display it while I was there. It's not something that I would.
You're going to let out of sight.
I'm not going to leave it up there. We have a snare drum, a keyboard that I use with a few bands over the years. That's up there. A few instruments. There's an old antique bass drum, probably from the 1950s or 1940s up
Cool.
there. Did it belong to a Revere musician? Maybe not, but it's cool looking.
And forgive me, that's what's really one of the cool parts of this whole exhibition. It isn't bios, it isn't just a few photos, it isn't a few magazines. You can interact by looking, not by touching. Artifacts, I learned that from Toby, where I put my jacket in the wrong place. Sorry, Toby. That's part of what's to see. That it was the actual physicality that was done by that. Because if you think about it, you jumped up and down and screamed and yelled for a couple hours every time you did a performance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
physically active. And, the words and the lyrics and the sound are great, but there was performance. Is there performances captured anywhere on film?
There was I wouldn't say film, but video.
Well,
there is videotape.
that's right.
And you think about when MTV started in the late 70s, early 80s, and there are some older video clips of bands from the 80s that we are playing on a TV up there off a thumb drive. All that stuff's on YouTube. And that was a matter of just researching for example, the Atlantics. They had, what was that? The song by the Atlantics, Bob? I Can Feel Your Heartbeat. Lonely Hearts. Yeah, so that's a vintage band from Boston, and the drummer was Paul Caruso. So of course we're going to feature that video. There's a lot of videos out there. And some videos that some bands pointed me to, the quality just wasn't there. Either it was a very poor camera, or it's maybe multi-generation down of VHS copies of a copy of a copy. But we have a good selection. I think we have 23 different videos that we're playing on a loop at the museum. And nobody has sat down to watch them all. Most people were wrapped up in conversation when they were with us. But that's great.
Maybe we need a showing one night.
Yeah.
I'll bring up a projector, we'll slap up a big old screen
Yeah.
and rock out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So, what do you think is the end result of what Hometown Rocks has turned into? And was it what you envisioned when you began? And I'm going to ask you to each separately talk
Okay.
about that. I'm going to have you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. So I don't have a prediction for where Hometown Rocks is going. I know we put a lot of work into it. It is a substantial museum exhibition. I think it's very niche in a way, where it's Revere musicians. You know, if a band was out that had no musicians from Revere, they're not going to appear there. Maybe if they played down Revere Beach for a couple of years or a year, possibly they would show up in the exhibit. But I can't predict where it's going to go. I know Bob and I have some plans to invite people up for us to play a little bit of music, some original songs on acoustic guitar. That seems to be our next goal. We haven't planned it yet. We haven't rehearsed any songs yet. Hometown Rocks, I would really like to have other cities and towns be interested in using the Hometown Rocks, entity to promote their own musicians from their own cities. We'll see what happens with that. We do have a website, hometownrocks.com, but it is Revere. It's centered on the Revere musicians. I think at some point we may have drop-down menus where different Malden, where are you from? Put a zip code in, and you can see the musicians from your town, from your city. That's down the road a bit. We'd love for that to happen because it's a good vibe that we're promoting, good memories. You know, we are getting older, and you look back 60 years ago when I was playing music with Bob, over 60 years now.
In the summer.
Right? And it's something to celebrate. Is it going to mean something to everybody? No, but is it going to mean something to certain people, fellow musicians, families of fellow musicians? A couple of people came up because we paid tribute to their husband or their father, and he's passed on. My friend Steve and his wife and his daughter and his sister were there, and they were in tears. And that's the kind of audience that we hope to keep encouraging to come and see us. What can we plan for more excitement? What remains to be seen. Stay tuned. All right.
Excellent. So follow along, Hometown Rocks. Make sure you get on that email list so you can get the invite for the opening show. And now you, my friend.
Okay. Well, when we started creating Hometown Rocks, we spent a considerable amount of time of processing before taking our first step into that room on the 4th floor. So we're pretty much doing the same thing now. We're doing a lot of thinking. Chuck and I are talking about it, thinking of different ways to go. Is there anything we could do regularly, or just let's do something once and see how it turns out? My thought is like, yes, we need to process it and think very carefully in how best to serve the people this excites. Now, it's more than a room when you step up there, and it's more than the 4th floor. It's almost like stepping into a time capsule, because it generates your memories. It regenerates a lot. It brings you back. So when you're back there, perhaps you want to listen to some music from the present. Musicians who played back then, whoever picked up a guitar for a while, they know the activity's coming up, maybe there's an open mic coming up, every so often, they'll prepare for it. And these are the kind of thoughts we're having. So it could be really quite exciting, and right now it's like we're at that place. Well, if we build it, will they come? We asked that question first, and we got our answer. They did come. So we're going to see if we're thinking the right things to see whether they will come or not.
So Facebook, Hometown Rocks Revere. Join our group. Follow us. We aim for 1,000 people. Right now we're in the 200s.
We'll get you there.
We'll get you.
data and links. Gentlemen, it's been a wonderful time. Been very interesting. For those of you that want to immerse themselves back in their fond memories of their youth, it's a great experience. For those of you that sort of know about that, or you've been influenced a little by grandpa and grandma to their music, and that, well, that's the truth.
It is
You can't
the
be
truth.
parents anymore. All right. You can experience what something that was, it no longer is, but is still living on through the efforts, the dedication, the processes of learning new things, technical, curation skills, reaching out to other people. And if you're one of those people that they looked for and couldn't find, please reach out to us to be able to participate in being this. I want to thank you both. Last words?
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Just, stay tuned and come visit us.
Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate it. And thanks for listening.
Well, on behalf of the Revere Art community and on the RAC, I'd like to say thanks, Chuck. Thank you, Robert. We had a great time today, and we look forward to seeing you soon on the RAC. Make sure you follow the end to see the links and the demo information that these guys have. Thank you.
Revere rocks.
Revere Rock.
All right, on.
Welcome to the Revere Art Community on the RAC podcast, a bi-monthly series brought to you by the Revere Art Community at Las Carentas and Chocolate Cafe, where we sit and talk with artists from the Revere community about how they do what they do and sometimes why they do it, with a little bit of focus on making sure that they're able to market and make a little bit of income from this. Welcome to On the RAC. We welcome artists of all backgrounds, ages, abilities, and experience levels. Every story matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. We create a safe, respectful space for artistic expression. We honor the rich tapestry of culture that we call Revere, our home, and we recognize that art is a powerful bridge between communities. Again, welcome to On the RAC.